last week, about 500 women in South Australia have had their nude photos leaked onto a US-based website, and as a huge shock to the whole world, they are the ones who have been blamed for their photos being leaked by morning show Sunrise. So many of these women have actually been victims of revenge porn, which is a really horrible act. It's when someone posts sexual photos or videos of their ex in an act of revenge, and it's usually because they're bitter about a breakup or being cheated on or something like that. Revenge porn is malicious and it's purposeful, and it definitely comes from a place of hate, and it is also a huge violation of trust that has been given to them. So going back to what Sunrise said, they posted this status on Facebook. What's it gonna take for women to get the message about taking nude photos? Nude and revealing photos of more than 500 Adelaide women and young girls have been shared on a website without their permission. It's believed the photos were taken from Facebook and also sent in by former partners as revenge porn. The photos are on a US website which is exempt from Australian law. So that's a pretty horrible thing to post on Facebook. Sunrise is a really well-known morning show, and I think it's really irresponsible that they posted that. They did take it down shortly after, but not before a lot of people saw it and got rightfully pissed off about it. So that Facebook post doesn't really surprise me at all. To be honest, I expect to hear something like that whenever these types of attacks or anything else in that kind of realm happens, because people are boring and predictable. And I guess that's kind of the most horrible thing about this, is that victim blaming has been going on for so long. What I don't understand about victim blaming is why we only blame the victims when it comes to crimes of a sexual nature. Like, if a jewellery store is robbed, we don't say, oh, well, the jeweller shouldn't have taken that ring out of the case to show the customers. We say, that robber is an asshole for robbing the jewellery store. When someone is murdered, we don't blame them and say, well, you shouldn't have been alive. We blame the person who murdered them. But when a person is raped or assaulted or anything like that, for some reason we question what the victim was wearing, why they were out by themselves, or why on earth they had the audacity to trust someone enough to send them nude photos. So I just want to make it clear. If someone is raped, it is not their fault. If someone is assaulted, it is not their fault. If somebody has had their nude photos leaked, it is not their fault. It is the fault of the person who did those things. And while we're on the subject of nude photos being leaked, I just want to point out that a person doesn't actually have to have had taken nude photos of themselves for nude photos of them to be on the internet. As an example, when I was in high school, some student photoshopped two of our teachers' faces onto pornographic images and sent them around the school. It was actually really traumatic for at least one of the teachers, who ended up leaving the school. But back to victim blaming, it's not just bad because it's a shitty thing to say. The mentality of victim blaming is actually quite dangerous. When we blame victims, it makes it harder for people to come forward and report abuse. It also means that when they do, they're often not believed. And the victim blaming attitude alludes to the idea that people aren't responsible for their shitty antisocial behaviour, and that as a society, we accept that shitty antisocial behaviour. So as a result, we have attackers and rapists and sexual offenders walking around freely thinking that it's all good to do what they're doing because nobody holds them accountable for their actions, nobody puts the blame on them. And let's not forget about the psychological damage and trauma that victims go through when they're blamed for what has happened to them. And that is on top of the trauma that they already are experiencing from what has happened to them. But having said all this, there has been a little positive that's come from it. Feminist writer Clementine Ford actually posted this awesome response to Sunrise. It's pretty awesome. And that has created so much noise. People are talking about it, which is great, and discussing the idea of victim blaming and how it is detrimental. That's basically all I have to say on this topic for now. I might make another video about this in the future, but for now, I'll see you next time.